Welcome to the Propane Fitness Podcast. Yusef here, and I've just had a quick thought that I thought I'd better get down for you guys. And that is, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self? And also, are you still following that advice? Sometimes our hypocrisy runs so deep that we don't even listen to our own advice, and it couldn't get any clearer. It's literally straight from the horse's mouth. And to get something from your own experience and then not act on it is the definition of insanity. It's doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So have a think about what it is that your 18-year-old self did that was maybe pretty stupid, particularly in training and diet, but there's probably a whole bunch of lessons that you can pick up from meeting yourself. And I know lots of people that if they met their previous self, they would have just slapped them upside the head and been like, what the hell are you doing? So mine would be, pick a program that involves progressive overload and just stick to it. I wish, looking back, that when I started training, I think I started doing strong lifts 5x5, which was fine, but it stalls out pretty quickly. And then I switched to 5-3-1 for a while, which got great results. And then for some reason, I switched away from it just because I had ADHD and itchy bum. And so wanted to switch on to another program and then another one, even though 5-3-1 was producing consistent results. Now, to be able to tell an 18-year-old, don't get itchy bum, stay focused on what you're doing, don't get excited by the flashing lights and things, and just focus on what's producing results, don't get bored by it, that's always going to be a hard sell. But now that you're older, now that you're wiser, maybe you can take that advice for yourself. So that's a very common one, program hopping. The lesson is pick a program that involves progressive overload and stick to it. The next thing would have been to just stop worrying about being lean. Since I was about 17, 18, I was 59 kilos, so that's pretty underweight for 5'8". And what I ended up doing was yo-yoing, gaining weight too fast and then cutting too aggressively and for too long. And all that happened was the following 5 years meant that I gained a lot less strength and muscle than I could have if I was just patient and wasn't a dick about it. So the rule that I would have told my 18-year-old idiot self would have just been, you are not allowed to cut until you are 23. And that serves two purposes. First of all, that stops you from being an idiot with calorie surplus, stops you from, if you've heard our fitness bullshit podcast, you'll know about mine and Johnny's ridiculous mistakes, but one of them was buying a bag of mutant mass, 7.5 kilo bag, and finishing it in about 2 weeks. So that was 2,100 calories per serving. So you have that twice a day, and I gained a stone, 6.5 kilos in 2 weeks, thinking it was all muscle, and my lifts stayed exactly the same, so that's pretty heartbreaking. So if you've had any fitness failures, then at least that one will probably make you feel a bit better about yourself. And then ended up doing a 6-month cut, repeat, ending up spinning your wheels. So this is a really common one, and I think people are often so concerned about staying under 10% body fat all the time that they shoot themselves in the foot and they don't end up looking any better. And really, the best thing to have done is be sensible with your calorie surplus, maybe 100 or 200 calories a day surplus at the very most, and just ride that as long as you can while you're continuing to gain strength. And just doing those two things for 5 years is going to yield much greater results than worrying about any minutiae, any kind of program changes, any DUP or protein cycling or carb cycling or any of this nonsense. And then you can do one definitive cut and just maintain your condition. The third thing would have just been to remain injury-free as long as possible. And you know what? That actually is a choice. I know you're probably going to think, well, yeah, cool story, bro, remain injury-free. How do I do that? But we always get, especially with training, because the style of training that we do is repetitive. And so repetitive strain injuries are by and large, the most common type of thing that we can get when we're lifting weights. And we get the warning signs, we get the aches and pains, but when we're young and we think we're invincible, we just continue to train on it, hoping that it'll get better. And most of the time, it does get better. You know, when you're 18, you can pound a high volume squat and deadlift session in the same day and feel like nothing happened the next morning. Whereas 10 years later, you do the same session and you feel like you've been hit by a bus. Really, our tissues and our structures have got a half-life. They're meant to last us for the rest of our lives. And really, we're accelerating that wear and tear process by being idiots with our training. So being smart about it would be the third big lesson that I would have told my 18-year-old self. When your back's hurting, don't be an idiot, because you'll be dealing with a herniated disc at 27. So all of these things, it's not to say that lifting is unsafe. It's more just that don't go for this go hard or go home, no pain, no gain approach. And that was often fueled by reading some kind of hardcore online, that sounds terrible, hardcore online training blogs that I'm not going to mention, but that were very much like, you need to squat or you're a pussy, and you need to go to the Chinese buffet and pour loads of oil on your food, and like, unless you're 140 kilos, then you're a prick. And all of this stuff would kind of fueled this. Whereas looking back, I realized that if you were to hear the more sensible approach of pick a steady program and stick to it for 5 years, don't worry about being lean, and stay injury free, it's not very sexy advice, is it? But ironically, it's what would have been way more fruitful than 10 years of faffing around in the dark. So what I'd like you guys to do is have a think about your 18-year-old self. If you met them, would you slap them upside the head? And what lessons would you tell them? And are you still following that advice now? And if you're not, we need to really take a step back and realize that if we're not following that advice now, we're just going to continue going where we're going and doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Remember the definition of insanity. Okay, so hopefully that was a helpful little tidbit, and we will speak to you guys next week.
Hey, Jonny again. Hope you enjoyed that episode of the Propane Fitness podcast. Just a short reminder, if you're listening to this driving in your car and you're thinking, man, I really wish I had a reference that they made in minute 5 or 10 or whatever to that thing that they were talking about. Well, we put together show notes for these podcasts every single week. We give you timestamps, we give you links to things we talk about, and we also give chances to grab free things, bonuses, etc. So head over to propanefitness.com and grab the show notes for this episode over there. Also, if you want to be notified of these podcasts when they come out, if you want free subscriber-only benefits, stick your email address in and grab our free downloads. One of the many free downloads, if you go to propanefitness.com and the homepage, there's a big red banner on the top of the website. Pick up that free ebook, that free download, and we'll send you emails whenever a new podcast is available. Just one short reminder as well. As you are a podcast listener, you have access to our exclusive free gift that is available nowhere else. And that is at propanefitness.com/gift.